You're listening to the Precision Shooting Podcast, discussing all aspects of precision and long-range rifle shooting. This episode is brought to you by Impact Dynamics, advanced training for the precision shooter. And now, over to your hosts.
Well, welcome to the Precision Shooting Podcast. This is episode number 16. I'm Rusty, and with me here is Andrew.
How you doing, Rusty?
Good, mate. And over there is Greg. How's it going, Greg?
Yeah, good, Rusty. Yourself?
Excellent. Thanks for coming in tonight, guys, and talking guns again. How's your week been?
Not too bad. Not too bad. Had a bit of a short one, so last week.
Oh, yeah, of course, Easter.
Yeah, and that was the weekend before, I reckon.
Yeah, but last week was short because of Easter, wasn't it? The
True,
Monday?
true.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I also made it shorter by taking holidays. So.
Oh, yeah, that'll do it as well.
No,
Good.
And I went shooting too, so.
Well, that's probably the most important part of the last 30 seconds.
The most important part, yeah.
Definitely. What about you, Greg?
Yeah. No,
Did you have Easter as well, or were you on holidays?
Yeah, I was on holidays.
Okay, good.
And, got out shooting as well. So,
Oh, wow.
Yeah, no, pretty happy. In fact, it was with you guys. So, it was a good weekend.
Yeah, that's right. We all sort of went shooting together.
Yeah.
The same location at the same time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, we certainly had a few drinks the night before together, and then later on the next day, you guys, you shot, and we shot separately, but we did some shooting. It was good fun. What did you end up shooting, Greg?
I had to get a 223 up just for a property that night.
Yep.
A smaller property.
Did you go? Did you get down to the property?
I did go. It ended up being a property that I couldn't shoot on because there was a lot of horses in the vicinity, so...
Brumbies? Wild Brumbies?
No, well, race horses.
Oh. Disappointing.
So in the end, that'll be a trapping property. So there'll be no guns there.
Never trapped horses before.
But I got the I'm not trapping horses. I don't need any pet food right now.
Oh, righto. Yeah.
But,
no lasagna?
No. Good. But I shot the 243, which I was really happy with that. Got out to 750 fairly comfortably, actually, before the wind got up.
Yeah, right. Yep.
And then the wind came up pretty quick, didn't it, Andrew?
With your BSA.
Yeah, it did.
Yeah.
I think what we noticed that day, Rusty, even later in the day, the wind kept up and got stronger, but it didn't switch a lot. It was
very unusual for that place.
It sort of varied in its strength, but it didn't switch directions, which sort of made it a little bit easier to get some less experienced shooters on target at 1,000 metres. So
yeah,
it was good.
Right with that. We got five guys guys and girls who had not really shot much before and all hitting 1,000 metres, mostly multiple times.
Yeah, it was in the conditions pretty good.
Yeah, it was good fun as well. Great to see the smiles on their faces.
I think from the sounds of it, you got two that you definitely got the bug.
Oh yeah. Certainly.
Oh, there was at least one of the other customers there was very, very intent.
They were keen. They were great. So it was good to get out. Good to get some more people into the sport and enjoying it. Yeah, it was good fun, and I managed to get 5 shots off the next day.
A whole 5?
A whole 5. Yeah,
I hope you savoured those 5.
I did, mate. Put them all on put almost all of them on 1,000. But anyway, it was good.
First
fun.
one?
Sorry.
First one?
First shot here.
Oh,
yeah.
nice.
Yeah, it was very rewarding as it usually is.
Yep.
And, you got a shot, didn't you, Andrew?
Yeah, I had a few shots
Saturday?
at the end of the day on Saturday. So
yeah. Yeah, it's always good fun. And we had, a couple of guys out on courses the next day and got one of them out to a mile on his first day out.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
What was he? Was that with your rifles?
No, that was a 300 Win Mag in a HS Precision with a Gen 2 Vortex on top. So it was a nice, nice setup.
That's a nice setup, yeah.
And running 190 grain nozzlers.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah.
interesting choice.
Yeah.
But it seemed to work. Yeah, sure. The gun grouped really well the whole day.
Yep.
Did everything it should. Brilliant. Well, we've got some stuff to talk about tonight. I got my hands on one of those Bushnell Conx rangefinders. Well, I didn't buy one. I got to play with one for a little while. And it was because I know, Greg, you've been you've been thinking about them for a while.
I've been watching them since they announced them, basically. I think a SHOT Show ago, or maybe even 2. I've been waiting for them to come out in Australia, and I'm really intrigued by the whole Bluetooth connectivity between, ballistic computer and rangefinder and just being able to link everything together. So I was very keen on them, but they kept delaying the release date in Australia. So I actually went for something else.
Okay.
But as we both know, they are released now. So yeah, you've just sold a few over the counter recently, haven't you?
Yeah, or just that one I managed to get a chance to have a trial with it, and I didn't get to connect it to a Kestrel because I haven't got an appropriate model Kestrel to do so. But I did connect it to my phone. It's got the option in there to put in a custom drop table, which is at about 600 yards or meters, I forget. That was quite good, and it would actually bring up what your drop was. So you'd range find something at whatever distance it was, and it would then tell you what your drop was for it.
So your phone doesn't have a ballistic calculator in it, so to speak. You would get
just had the app, the Bushnell app.
Oh, Bushnell has an app?
Yeah, but you're right. It didn't have... it did have some profiles preset with certain drops in them, but I personally never really trust those. I always like to get my own data.
Yep.
So you get your own data from wherever you get it from, put it into the Bushnell app, and then it will come up in your rangefinder depending on what you're ranging.
Yep.
I guess, Greg, probably for listeners that aren't 100% aware of the particular model you're talking about, maybe it might be a good idea to explain a little more detail as to the differences between, say, this model from Bushnell as opposed to some of their previous models.
Oh, yeah, okay. So Bushnell released the 1 mile... Is it just called the 1 mile, isn't it? 1 mile...
Arc, I believe it was. Yeah,
that's right. Or
they've had Fusion. They've had a few different names, so they have different variants. Yeah. But it's always been around that 1 mile sort of distance.
Yep. So this Conx is basically modelled straight over the top of that, but with Bluetooth connectivity.
Yep.
I think it uses the low power Bluetooth, which is what the Kestrels use. So you can actually connect to Kestrel.
Nice.
The older one, they're a pretty solid rangefinder in terms, sort of your out to a mile. So for most hunting and shooting applications, they're pretty good.
Yep.
The old one had generic profiles in it, so you sort of pick the most appropriate profile for your drops that you're experiencing, but they're never really a perfect fit.
Still compromising.
Yeah, still compromising, but probably for shorter range stuff like spotlighting and stuff like that, quite good.
Yep.
But when you start to reach out, you start to see that error come into it. So fundamentally, that's really all there is to it. And they've just added this connectivity and ability to be able to put in these custom profiles, and as well. Now, correct me if I'm wrong here, but I'm fairly sure when you connect to one of the Kestrel Elites, and you hit a range to a target, it'll actually put that range into the Kestrel data.
Yes.
And actually bring back to the rangefinder the actual drop based on the Kestrel data.
Yeah, I didn't get the chance to test it, but as far as I'm aware, that's what happens.
Yeah, and also I think the inclination data from the... so it does all that cosine stuff as well. So, yeah, pretty good.
Do you know, Greg, offhand, whether it also gives you the wind data? Obviously, because Kestrel, that's its primary function, to obtain wind information.
So, I believe if you do have your Kestrel in the weather vane and you're actually measuring wind, you can got it set up for crosswind, I guess.
Yep.
Because the Kestrel would need to know where your target is. It needs to know what angle your target's at compared to what angle the wind's coming in. So it'd have to be a range scenario for that case. But it does... The Kestrel obviously has the ownership of the wind. And if you're interacting with the ballistic computer on the Kestrel, it should be able to pass that information back. But I'm just not sure how that plays out. So really have to try and get our hands on these units or one of these units and have a play, really.
Well, I think one of the competitors who will be shooting at the Precision Rifle Invitational has just purchased one, so I'm 100% sure he will have it there.
Yep. The challenge will be to get a Kestrel there that we can connect it to have a bit of a play. I'm just looking on their website at the moment for Bushnell, and I can't see what it does with the wind side of things from the Kestrel. Doesn't tell me, but I guess we, if we can get one together, which I think we hopefully can, we should be able to tidy that all up.
Yeah, put it through its paces. Yep.
What is interesting is that I know that Vectronics have had this sort of interface with wind and whatnot for some time. You're talking about real high-end rangefinder equipment, dollar-wise, and it's just interesting to see it coming into a lot more affordable package. I think that once the technology and it's advancing all the time,
Yeah, I think
interesting to see what we're gonna have in 2, 5, 10 years time.
Yeah, I really think
laser wind readers.
Well, that's
surely.
Yeah,
is
I'm up for that.
That
That's
is,
where it's
know,
going.
Yeah,
Yeah, there's a lot of talk of that on some of the other podcasts. I think about
Yeah,
being studied for military use. I think at this stage.
who knows when it will make its way down to a civilian level? But it'll certainly be interesting to look into.
Yeah, I think the Israelis are definitely looking at it, and presumably the US would be as well. So in 20 years we'll have it.
So I guess potentially, I don't know whether I'll turn out to be right or wrong, but it just seems to be the start of more connectivity between devices.
I think you're going to turn out to be right with that, Greg, because there's certainly more and more. Everything seems to be wanting to talk to each other.
Yeah. So potentially, app-driven appliances that interact with like sort of displays, giving you all the data you need. So whether it goes down that line, we'll have to wait and see.
Well, some of the systems that Tracking Point have out now are very much going down that line of taking shooter error, and, ability to make judgment on range and wind and that sort of thing out of the equation. So
absolutely, it'll be that's going to save a bit of time. We can just sit down at the pub and have our rifles just compete for us.
Yeah,
that'd be good.
That's it. Who's got the best ballistic app or something like that?
That's right. Who's done their settings correctly?
Yeah,
and
that's it.
Yeah, that's it. Oh well. Anyway, one day, hopefully not. The other little product I got a chance to try is the GRS Berserk, which I actually bought for a Hauer of mine, which is a stock, one of the GRS style looking stocks with adjustable length of pull and adjustable cheek, but it's a polymer stock, and it's I found it really comfortable myself.
Yeah.
Did you try it?
Yeah, I did. Yeah, it for me the particular rifle wasn't set up super well with the scope height, but it was very comfortable to shoulder.
Yep.
If it was my rifle, I'd set the scope height and the eye relief for me, but to shoulder that.
It's only because I've got a pretty messed up eye relief for some reason, but
and I've got a rugby player's neck, so. But it was comfortable.
But a gentleman's beard, I must say, a gentleman's beard.
Yes, it's coming along nicely.
Absolutely.
But no, it was very comfortable stock, and it seems solid. I mean, you would have seen a lot of polymer stocks that come out on factory guns are very flimsy in the forend.
Yeah.
It'd be interesting to try a heavy barrel action in there to sort of see what effect that stock would have on accuracy over, say, one of their laminates or a chassis or something like that. It seemed solid. I was impressed.
Yeah, and it is recommended to bed them in, which I haven't done. I just bolted it in for the time being, but we'll bed it in once I'm convinced it's going to stay on there. But really comfortable to at least get your positioning correctly with with everything adjustable, and it's under $700, I think. So
yeah, I mean, I had a good look at the forend of it, and it seemed solid? Like a lot more solid than like a cheap blow molded factory stock.
Yeah. Well, a good upgrade. It was a Hogue stock on there before, so look, anything probably just a plank of wood is a good improvement.
I mean, that GRS stock looks pretty good too. I appreciated the look of it more than the laminates. I wasn't real fussed on the laminates, but yeah.
I did also notice that a lot of the new shooters really comfortably got in behind that rifle quite easily, without much awkwardness at all. Quite often new shooters they struggle to get that nice comfortable position.
Yeah, I think with the exception of one left-hander, but for the rest of them, the stock. If anyone's used a GRS stock, you only really get one choice of how you put your hand on it. And so that sort of gravitates them to put their right hand on there properly, which then lends to the whole thing coming together quite well. More to
the point, it makes them put their hand there consistently.
Yeah, true.
I've noticed, and I think even on Saturday we had some of the shooters, even with a thumb hole stock, they weren't wanting to put their thumb through the thumb hole and grasp hold of that pistol grip. They were kind of still wanting to hold it from the side, and whereas that GRS stock, it really sort of
made you hold it the right way.
You had to.
So. But fair enough. They do use 5 different guns over the course of the day, so they're sort of they forget the thumb hole. But I guess the GRS one lends itself to you've sort of only got one option of grabbing it the right way. And the poor bloke who did try and use it left-handed didn't shoot so well, and then we changed the gun over, and he went. He shot quite well. So
that's better. Yeah,
good for him. It was The other one that I was going to bring up with you guys was a question from a listener. Now, I cannot remember where this guy asked me from, whether it was Facebook or email. Anyway, the question was, do muzzle brakes affect accuracy? So I'll put that to you.
It's a pretty broad question. I think it was one we can't just answer quickly, but they can. Yes, they can affect accuracy.
Yep.
Negatively and positively, depending on the rifle and how it's fitted.
Mm-hmm.
I've seen muzzle brakes that are fitted incorrectly, where the thread might be cut off center or something like that.
Yep.
Or if a hole, like the clearance holes through the brake are not large enough.
Yes.
Not even to the degree of the bullet hitting them, but just not enough clearance. It can affect accuracy. But then again, I've seen rifles that have had a brake put on them shoot more accurately. So whether that's due to the brake or whether it's making the rifle easier to shoot, probably what is interesting is the most accurate rifles in the world don't utilise them in short-range bench rest rifles.
Yep.
Now, why that is, I'm really not sure. I mean, normally speaking, they're quite heavy rifles and they're only shooting very light bullets for the caliber, so recoil is not an issue.
Yeah,
and the way they set up,
the way
those rifles are set up, they don't jump off the bags. They recoil straight back, and
yep.
It's rarely is it a problem. Whereas if you had, say, a 300 Ultra Mag or even a 300 Win Mag or a 308, for a lot of shooters that are not particularly experienced, you put a brake on it and their accuracy improves. Now, I don't know whether that's improving the accuracy potential of the rifle or just how that person shoots it.
Improving the shooters, yeah.
But I mean, I don't use them on all of my rifles.
Yep.
But I think they've got advantages, definitely. So
yeah.
You had a brake put on your 243, Greg. What's your experience with that?
Well, my experience is on the positive side. So since I've put the muzzle brake on, mind you, I don't have any clear data prior to, because I didn't do load development prior to. So I muzzle braked it and then did load development, and I actually come up with some really good results and very consistent results. And I couldn't be happier with that rifle. So that might be a combination of, obviously, the whole reloading, the comfort factor in terms of, because it really does feel like a 223 to shoot. It's quite nice to shoot. My experience, although not vast, is on the positive side.
One I've just remembered it now. One of our listeners, our regular listeners, does a lot of shooting sort of in the northern part of Adelaide. He had a brake fitted to, I believe it was a 243 Ackley.
Yes.
And he had some interesting issues. I'd have to follow up with him how he went with that. But what he was finding was that it was it's a very accurate rifle, but he would shoot, take the brake off, put the brake back on, and then find he'd have a point of impact shift, considerable point of impact shift. And in a not so accurate rifle, you could probably write that off as just sort of inherent accuracy of the rifle. But he's an experienced enough shooter with his rifle, is known to be accurate, that it was a definite, repeatable. And I think
from memory as well, he did post a photo with the muzzle brake off that had a fairly, I'll say, ugly-looking crown on it.
It was a little unusual the way it had been fitted. I did speak to him about how I would do it. I still can't work out why, with no other change other than taking the brake off and then back on, he would get an impact shift.
But I think the nature of that crown too is getting a big build-up of...
huge build-up of carbon on it.
Very unusual build-up of carbon.
Yeah, it was... So a little bit odd. I think there had been a couple of different people involved with the process of that brake and the way it was went from being standard to what it is now. So, I think I sort of suggested to him that what I would do, and I don't think he's had that done yet. But it was an interesting phenomenon. I've never seen that with a brake before. Normally, you will see a point of impact shift.
Yep.
But often, I've never witnessed a degradation in accuracy unless there's been a really poorly fitted brake.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay.
So, long story short, if the brake is fitted well, you shouldn't see a loss of accuracy. If anything, you get an improvement.
You may see an improvement.
Yeah.
More perhaps based on the shooter than it is on the gun itself, we think.
Probably.
Yeah.
I mean, it would be the subjective test of that would be to get a bench rest gun, put a brake on it, and see. But I guess we'll have to chase up a few of our bench rest shooters to find that out. So.
Try and convince them a brake's the way to go. They're probably not allowed to.
Most ranges they allow.
No, but I wonder if it's in the bench rest rules.
Probably. Interesting. Could find it out, I guess. I guess if any of our listeners know.
Yeah, let us know. That would be very good. I'm not entirely sure we get a huge amount of bench rest shooters listening to the podcast, the way you've talked about bench rest previously, Andrew.
What, you mean the average age being sort of 75 or above?
Oh dear, we're trying to annoy as many segments as we can, it seems. And anyway, we'll continue our quest. Oh, very good. Did you guys, or you brought it up with me, Andrew, you told me about it, but Greg, did you see about that 1,000-metre group, or 1,000-yard group that was shot recently?
No, I did not.
Was it 1.8?
1.859 inches.
For 5 shots.
Yeah, you did mention on Saturday. Yeah, that's
0.178 MOA at 1,000 yards.
178, wow.
And I think, if my memory serves me correctly, there was 4 shots out of that 5 were into considerably under an inch.
3 shots.
3 shots?
Yeah, I don't know if you can see that image there, Andrew. I reckon that's 3, and then one up there and one there, or thereabouts. It's on, where's that accurate shooter?
I think. Oh.
Or is that anyway? Whatever it is, it's a pretty impressive group.
So was that in comp conditions, or did this individual set out to achieve this?
It was in a practice, basically, I believe, wasn't it?
Yeah, that's right. And they call it some specific a wallet group, apparently, which I don't know what that means, but apparently it means that it's not under competition. Therefore,
wallet groups are for the the braggers, basically.
Oh,
right. Have to carry it around to pull out and show people.
Okay, to prove it. Yeah, right.
What is interesting, though, is that the rifle that he used, I think it was a 6.5284.
That's right.
Memory,
yep.
But it wasn't in a typical massive F-class / long-range bench rest rifle. It was very much a tactical type rifle with a surgeon action, I believe. So
surgeon action, Bartlam barrel, 5R barrel with a
is that a Macmillan style?
It looks Macmillan-ish. I can't see. It's a single shot surgeon. It's more along the F-class line.
Yeah, but I mean it doesn't, to look at that, it doesn't strike you as a 5-inch wide 4-end 50-pound.
Yeah,
gun,
that's true.
It's a pretty affordable setup too, really. Maybe the action.
Affordable for you, Greg, perhaps.
Yeah, true.
Money bags, yeah.
Yeah.
Good. How's those Defiance going, mate? Have you had them arrive yet?
No.
Oh, that's a shame. Anyway, so that's a pretty impressive group. That's something to work towards. Under 2 inches at 1,000 yards from 5 shots. You've had one of those, haven't you, Andrew? The 6, not the group. Sorry, the 6.5.
All the time.
Yeah, it's in his wallet.
Yeah, that's right. But
it's bulging, and it's not from money.
No, there's 3 zeros here, mate. 1,000 yards.
Oh, okay. I thought you were talking about 10 yards.
Yeah. 6.5284.
Mine was a 6.284.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
It was actually my first ever rifle.
Yep.
But yeah, no, mine was in pretty similar format actually to that rifle there. I probably shouldn't have got rid of it. Actually, it shot really well. It was a good gun, but it again was a single shot, very heavy. Sort of a 18 to 20-pound gun. So
yep.
Didn't quite fit in the practical shooting side of things.
Well, spotlighting foxes and. Yeah. When farmers don't stop, they just chase the fox, and you're trying to use an 8 to 32 and a 20-pound gun off the back of a moving vehicle. It's
all right if you've been to the gym,
Yeah, that's right.
You could be as Arnold Schwarzenegger, and you're still not going to be able to hit the target. But no. So that cartridge has sort of come a long way.
Mm. Yeah, no, it's certainly a good one. And the other thing that has been in the last couple of weeks is April Fools. Now, there's one thing we'll talk about. But before that, Vortex released a new reticle, which I found quite amusing.
Turkey reticle or something like that.
The 12 gauge EBR 12 gauge, and if you get a chance to have a look at it, it's worthwhile. It's basically a shot pattern, and if you can help, you obviously need to zero it in for your shotgun. But it's probably the best reticle I think they've released. That
is a little harsh, but
no, practical for a shotgun. Well, that's I'm not criticising Vortex there. I'm just saying that they've finally responded to the shotgun market, and it's probably good. My question was, and I couldn't confirm this, is it first focal or second focal plane? But
You have to look into that a little further, I think, Rusty.
yeah, probably should. And going on our discussions tonight, is it MOA or Mil? But I guess I'll drop them an email, find out, I guess, and see what the story is on their 12-gauge reticle.
Yeah, you do that.
I will, mate. I'll sign off, Andrew. Yeah, perfect. Excellent. And the other thing that we haven't been able to 100% confirm that you brought up was the new burger projectile that got released on April 1st.
I have a feeling that was a little too coincidental, and the fact that we weren't really able to find any more information about it.
Nothing at all. Yeah.
It was I believe, I'll have to check, but I think it was a non-lead core, so a copper projector. I think that's what they said, but with a screw-in titanium tip. Interestingly, it was. Well, it would have to talk to Brian Litz about it. I spoke to Brian at SHOT Show a couple of years ago, and they were certainly, it's on the Burger's agenda to get a 50 cal projectile and larger calibers as well, the 416s and the 408s and 375. But so it's not out of the realms of possibility, but I think it's a little too coincidental.
Yeah, no, I read the article and I just thought it was an April Fool's thing myself.
The interchangeable tips and all this sort of stuff.
I don't think... Rusty's just having a look now, but I can't picture Burger doing a solid. They're so well known for swage...
Their jackets, yeah.
Swage lead, copper
jacket. I'm convinced it's April Fool's, mate. I mean, that 12-gauge reticle is definitely 100% true, but this thing's an absolute joke.
Well, if we've got any listeners that are working at Burger, maybe you could flick us a message and let us know about that.
I don't even bother. I know it's got to be. I know they've been working on a 50 cal, but nothing about that reads correctly.
Or should all our listeners send an email to Litz?
You never know.
Just as a return April Fool's gesture.
Yeah, well, who knows? Barnes might release that within the next, if they were smart, next week or so, release a copper turn projectile.
Well, I mean, I imagine they'll probably put a few out the next week or so.
Yeah, and I was saying 50 cal, 750 grain. I don't believe they do that yet.
No, they do. They don't do any copper ones. I believe they're brass.
Oh, righto.
Yeah.
What about a titanium tip?
That's only one small step away.
That's right, a threaded one as well. If you,
yeah.
And it says that the tip can be removed so you can transport them safely without damaging them.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah, sounds legit.
Yeah,
sounds good. Cool. Well, I guess we will finally get into our topic for this evening, which is talking about MOA or Mil. Now, we alluded to this on the last podcast that Andrew and I did together. We talked about first focal plane, second focal plane. And second to that, this is probably my most asked question on scopes. And it's always an interesting one to hear people's thoughts on it. So I guess we go around the room. What does everyone use, Mil or MOA?
I sort of have, relatively recently changed over to the Mil system because it's for me and the sort of shooting I've developed into doing predominantly. It sort of suits me better, and I think it's easier system to use. Having said that, there's nothing wrong with the MOA system either. So I predominantly use Mil, but some MOA still.
Yep. Greg?
Yeah. Look, I've had a few scopes, and I've had inches per 100 yards. I've had MOA and now Mil, but now Mil for me, I've got a military background and use Mils a lot for navigation and things like that, and all that stuff I just find easy. Just the metric versus angular calculations, like MOA, to understand exactly what a click's worth at distance is a difficult calculation for me. Like it might not be for other people, but to know what one click is at 837 metres, that in Mil, that's 8.37 centimetres, like straight away, bang.
Yeah.
So for me, it's just an easier system to use naturally on the go at speed. Whereas MOA, I've got to estimate it rather than, we do this broad brush estimation of 1 inch, one MOA is an inch at 100 yards, but it's not at 100 metres. but it's not. It's
No,
what's
it's
Well, it's not. It doesn't equal an inch
Yeah.
exactly at 100 yards or metres.
Yeah,
But that's what I sort of sorry to
And-
cut you off, but
yeah, but people throw that out at 1,000, and then they go, it's 10 inches at 1,000, but it's
not.
not.
It's close, but it's not.
close. But when you're on that precision side of things, and you want that quick calculation, I can give a precise calculation with mil easily, and I probably struggle a little bit with MOA.
what about yourself, Rusty?
Well, when I started getting into this side of things, the guys I was around were all running MOA, so naturally just ran MOA because that's what the story was, and I got to know it very, very well, and have made a conscious decision in the last probably 2 years ago to change to mil, because I figured I needed to know that in a very balanced way to be able to do what I do. Because I was training guys with mil and I just didn't have, I sort of knew the theory of it, but I couldn't do it quickly. I still got to say that MOA comes to mean more natural. If I'm calling someone's wind, I'll probably get a more accurate call in MOA than I will in mil at this stage. I'm getting better with mil, and because it's all I'm using now for my own guns. And so those 5 rounds I put through on Sunday, a step closer, just keep on chipping away. But using mils more and more, I understand it, I appreciate it, it's good. But MOA still comes more naturally.
Yeah, I find one thing too, a lot of the targets we're using are like 2 MOA targets at whatever distance.
Yep.
So, yeah, obviously that's going to suit MOA, so it'd probably be good to go a metric version. I think STS has started doing...
Yeah, Sean at STS.
Yeah, Sean at STS, he's been started doing mil versions of his
the mil
targets.
gongs.
The mil gongs.
That's right.
What I have noticed, though, is even if you've got a gong that is whatever MOA rating or whatever distance, particularly at the range that we shoot on predominantly, they're not set at exact ranges anyway, or very few of them are.
Yeah.
And even if they are, it might be a 2 MOA at 600 metre gong that's sitting at 1,000.
Yeah.
Oh,
So it doesn't really, to me, doesn't have a lot of bearing on anything because,
No.
if I'm calling wind for somebody,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm looking through either a scope, rifle scope, or a spotting scope
Yep.
with a reticle in it, or some sort of ability to, arrange scale in it,
Measure it, yeah.
yeah, it's pretty quick to make the call. Okay, they're aiming at the middle of that target. That's where their bullet went. It's
Yeah.
0.8 left or
Yeah,
whatever
the
it is,
old-
and
First focal planes are definitely the way to go. Yeah.
yeah, absolutely. I mean, I was on the weekend just been looking through that Bushnell spotting scope of yours there, Sam, and
with the H32 Horus reticle, which I've just started using. Yeah.
yeah, and that that was allowing me to make pretty quick calls.
Yeah, it's
on
not
the
a bad,
fly.
not a bad little setup, is it? Yeah.
Yeah.
For those listening, I guess we probably should not assume too much and just clarify the differences between MOA or mil or where they've come from. Anyone want
I
to
guess
do that?
probably it's worth starting with both of them are angular measurements.
Yes.
Sort of, I guess, a common sort of perception people have is that one is metric and one's imperial.
Yeah, not quite true.
No. I mean, it so happens that the mil system works out conveniently in that, with a scope that says 0.1 mil clicks, for example.
Yep.
One click is 1 centimetre at 100 metres. So it's, if you're brought up in a metric environment, it's sort of easy to get your head around that.
Yeah, but it also works the same for
Yards.
Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
So it's 1/1000th of.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it can be applied to either a metric or an imperial system. It's not inherently metric, I guess.
Yeah, that's right. And on the same token, like MOA is obviously minutes of angle.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess what I have heard some people say is that MOA-based scopes with adjustments can be more precise in the clicks.
Yep. Well, just to step it back 1 second. So MOA, for those who are perhaps not aware, if you've got a circle, it's 360 degrees, and you take one of those degrees, minute. So that's one angle, and then minute of angle. A minute's just a way of dividing by 60. So it's 1/60th of
60th of 1 degree.
1 degree
Yep.
is 1 minute, and then you obviously 0.25 of a minute, which is a common adjustment, is a quarter of a minute of an angle.
Yeah, which approximately is roughly 1/4 of an inch at 100 yards. It's not exact, but to give a ballpark sort of idea of the comparison.
Well, 100 yards a minute is 1.047 and some
inches,
other inches at 100 yards, but it is fairly rounded to an inch to make it easy to work with. The further you go, the more that margin for error is there.
Absolutely, but just to give a sort of a rough understanding.
Get your head around it,
Like, whereas, say, a mil, 0.1 of a mil, 1 centimetre or 100 metres, so it is a slightly coarser adjustment, if you like.
Yep. It is, but there are scopes out there, and now back to your point about MOA often having the reputation for being the finer adjustment, because you've got 1/8 of a minute scopes a lot of target guys will use. But there are 0.05 click adjustments for mil as well.
Yeah, they're certainly not as predominant, but and you got to think of the applications for a scope, and I don't think anyone really has a huge advantage by going with a really fine adjustment in that way anyway, very rarely.
Well, I guess a lot of the F-class guys do it, and the bench rest guys certainly do.
Yeah, see, bench rest there are some disciplines.
Well, you've already offended them, so they've all turned off anyway.
But they're, they're generally scored not on how close it is to a particular mark, it's how tight the group is. So there are exceptions to that, the BR50 and BR30, which is score-based.
Yep.
So, yeah, but I don't think it has a big advantage. I mean, we've sort of done comparisons. If you were to look at, say, a scope with 1/4 MOA versus 0.1 mil, what difference that is at, say, 1,000 metres, it's very minimal.
Yeah, and the other thing to consider too is when you sight in a rifle and you get it down, the furthest out a sighting can be is half of one click value.
Half a click, yeah.
At the worst. So you bring that down even further again, the gap between the two is even more insignificant.
Yeah, correct. I mean, so using that information, the most you could be out at 100 metres with a mil click is, 5 millimetres. So it's insignificant really when you look at all the other factors that long range that come into play.
That's it.
Absolutely. So I guess in this sort of precision rifle stuff is really hit or miss. You're often not judged really on how close your group size is or anything like that. As long as you're hitting the target, which usually got a little bit of margin for error for, it's probably not going to make the difference.
No, and I think like we did certainly talk about this with the podcast we did about mil or MOA scopes and which is better basically. And I think the critical thing there is just to have your reticle matched correctly with your turrets. As far as all manufacturers seem to do it, and it's obviously market driven. But to have a mil dot reticle with MOA turrets, for example.
And I guess a lot of new shooters seem to think they should get a mil dot because that's what they want. And what they mean is they want something with hash marks they can use to aim with, but they want to get an MOA scope, because they're familiar with sort of an inch at 100 yards being a measurement, and perhaps it's just often they end up with one, but it's their terminology that is perhaps wrong. Is that they just want something that they can use with graduations in it to achieve what a mil dot scope will achieve, but they just use the term mil dot, and that's what they end up with, which doesn't. Yeah.
Well, I've seen a lot of shooters use mil dot reticles. And where they don't necessarily, particularly in a second focal plane scope, they leave it set on the whatever power they want to use it on, and they don't actually, they just use it as hold-off points, basically. They're not using it to the full potential of the reticle, and
for sure,
they probably don't know any different and probably happy, but there's certainly, the more
more into it you get.
Yeah, you can fully utilise a reticle by having turrets that actually match it. Makes it a lot easier to call wind and that sort of thing.
Yeah, it's probably that's probably another discussion, isn't it? Reticles and reticle designs. It's probably certainly worthwhile chat and see what we like. But anyway, back to mil and MOA. So Greg, have you found going from mil to MOA when you have tried MOA more? Is it?
Well, I sort of went through MOA to mil.
Oh, okay. So you've done the same path we've done then.
Yes.
Okay.
When I did up when I did upgrade, though, I went to mill, and I'm pretty happy I did it. But essentially, they're the same thing, but I just felt more comfortable in terms of doing those range calculations that I talked about before.
Yeah.
Just for me, it's it's just an instantaneous thing,
Hmm.
and that just feels really comfortable for me because I can just. It's just a natural fit to the way I think. Is probably the best way to put it, and so I've lent towards that just purely for a comfort and comfort of calculation. That's why I'm on the mill.
So one thing I sort of found, the scopes that I've used that are still MOA based are generally speaking the ones that I don't adjust. Like a rimfire or on just a typical closer range hunting gun where you zero it and you put the caps back on and you leave it.
Yep.
And sort of on a hunting gun that you're predominantly shooting pigs or goats with it, maybe 300 metres tops.
Doesn't make it massive.
You're just holding over and you don't have that sort of concern. But if you're shooting 1,000 metres on a rabbit or something like that, different story.
Have you been using both systems at the same time much?
No, because any rifles that I've had and still have with MOA, I don't. The reticles I've got in them are not graduated reticles. Generally, they're basic reticles for applications where you're not utilising the reticle really.
I mean, are you having if you got 3 MOA tactical type scopes and then 3 mil scopes, are you swapping between them, or have you gone everything mil?
Well, for the stuff that I adjust,
talking just the stuff you adjust,
mil, because it saves that confusion of, I don't actually think there's one's better than the other. I just think that if you're making wind calls and you're trying to familiarise yourself with wind in particular, elevation is not so critical. But if you're trying to look at a target at any given distance and make a wind call, if you're trying to run mil and MOA in your head, you're really asking for trouble.
Yeah, certainly. And I'm just curious because I changed over from MOA to mil sort of slowly as I could afford it. And it sort of did my head in for a little while there, trying to remember what gun I was using, what scope I was using, and you're going, am I used to mil? And that's where I think it took me a bit longer to change over to mil than perhaps it should have, because I was running several scopes at the time and slowly worked my way to having a mil.
You couldn't convert after 15-ish years of MOA to mil overnight? What's the matter with you?
Yeah, I know. Yeah, sorry.
Well, if you dropped
amateur, wasn't it? Sorry.
Yeah, that's correct. You are, but if you were to
if
you were to change over everything in the one hit, it's a different story. But if you're running half and half because you've only changed over half your scopes, that's the problem.
Yeah. So I guess from that, and I was trying to see if anyone else had experience on that. But if you are going to go with one, stay with one. And if you're going to buy a second scope, don't go, you know what, I'll try a mil on this one and I'll try MOA on that one. I'd really suggest just stick with whichever one it is you're comfortable with.
Yeah. One sort of I guess scenario which I've noticed you got to get your head around it is when we've been running courses or practice days, long range days, when you might have 4 or 5 guys down on the mats in front of you.
Yep.
Running a variety of different scopes.
Yes.
And all wanting wind calls, and you're looking through a spotting scope. If you don't have a reticle in there, you've got to try and guess, or if you do have a reticle, it's usually in mils.
Yeah.
And you've got 3 guys asking for MOA corrections and 2 asking for mils.
Oh, see what happened on Sunday is so I ended up my Vortex spotting scope. I've got a MOA reticle for that. So I could put that in, and my Bushnell is a mil scope. So that way I was able to have 2 scopes, and the guys would just have to wait for me to sit between that chair and that chair, depending whether they wanted a mil or an MOA reading. And that was certainly easier having, and that's why I bought them like that, because they end up with 1 in each category, and that way I don't have to remember exactly what it is. I just look at the lines and say you were this much lower and this much to the right, and hope I remember which scope I'm using. But yeah, that was far easier to work out.
Yeah, good point, but can be difficult if you don't have that luxury.
Well and truly, Yeah, and that's where often found, certainly previous to having that option, is just running a no reticles and just saying you were 3 targets to the right because that was the easiest one that we could, we're both talking the same language then because you can see how the shooter, he or she, can measure how far that target is and then apply it in terms of mil or MOA.
Probably not as precise, which I guess is, for a lot of
Certainly
applications, not a real big deal. But
You get them on target though.
Yeah, one thing I'll be interested to see will be with the Precision Rifle Invitational coming out, what we get as far as a mix of MOA and mil and how the shooters go. I don't think there's going to be necessarily a bearing on how they perform, but it'll be interesting to see.
No, I'm not sure. Yeah, I think there's such disparity of skill level coming along that it won't necessarily come down to the gear by any stretch.
Yeah.
It'll certainly come down to the shooter.
Yeah, and I don't believe that 2 shooters of identical ability, one with MOA, one with mil-based scopes. I don't think there's going to be an advantage either way.
No, I certainly agree. So
look, in your guys' experience, is the difference between the 2 scopes stop you from hitting the targets you've been going for?
No. Just I stop myself from hitting the targets. Nothing to do with the scope.
I know that feeling.
That's the same for anybody.
Yeah,
really. It's it's all shooter error, really.
Yeah.
Unless you have a mechanical issue with your scope, but
Fortunately, I haven't had too many of them. Yeah, which has been good. Well, guys, I reckon that's probably about it on the mil and MOA topic for now. I'm sure we'll address it another point. There's always more to talk about on it. Has anyone got any final thoughts or anything?
Not to come to mind, Rusty. I guess what I'd probably say is sort of still welcome any questions that come in. I mean, there's we're really sort of keen to address any specific topics that people have. So keep them coming.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, very good. Too late for an April stroke, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. All right. There goes the last item on the agenda. Anyway, very good. Well, we are looking forward to this. The comp coming up in a week and a bit.
Week and a half.
Yeah, not even. So, I think our next podcast is going to be after that. If we're still awake or alive, still. Well,
you anyway, Sam. I know you've been running off your
it's good fun.
Your feet, getting all this organised. So
but so
might be able to have a rest afterwards.
It would be not a chance, mate. We've got Sydney shot
to
worry about after that. So and then just a reminder for those who didn't hear on the last one, we Greg and I are going to be over in Sydney in June for the shot expo, and certainly hope to catch up with some of the guys. And what is actually on that same weekend, unfortunately for us, because then we can't go, is the Victorian Practical Rifle shoot. Is that saying that their next shoot is on that weekend, which I'm disappointed for because I was keen to get over there. But the next one is August. So if you guys are interested or keen, but I reckon we should probably try and get a few of the Adelaide guys to convoy over, or if there's enough, we'll get a bus or something. I'll find that date. Hold on.
Definitely be keen to go and have a look at least.
And same. I'm hoping to have that 6x47 done, so that might be a bit of a maiden voyage for that setup too.
Show the Victorians how it's done.
I hope so.
Yeah.
Hopefully not showing them how to come last.
Well, you'll be showing them something either way.
I'd be honest, just be happy out there having a shot,
Yeah, be good. Well, that's all we can ever hope for, isn't it?
Yep.
Okay, so June 26th for those guys who aren't going to Shot Expo. It would be wonderful for you guys to get over, get in touch with Jared at the Victorian Practical Rifle Series. You can find him on Facebook. But the August 28th is the one after. I think perhaps we should tentatively sort of think about heading over. And I know it's ages away, but if you are sort of pretty keen to head on over and with maybe either convoy or bus it or do something, I know the guys said we can stay on the range. So maybe drop us an email or a Facebook message to say that you're interested, and we'll see what numbers from Adelaide are like, and see if we can go join the Victorians over there and watch Greg show them how it's done. Hey,
certainly.
Yeah.
Watch and learn.
I love your confidence, mate. That's
actually,
really
good. It's false advertising, but anyway, we'll see how we go.
Yeah, it'd be good fun to watch you do something, whatever it is you do. The other one that was the wanted to mention was the NT guys had their shoot on Sunday, which went very well. And yeah, it has some excellent photos, so that's probably worthwhile looking at. And the other, their dates as well. No, I can't find their dates quickly. Anyway, we'll update that on the next one for those guys who are in Darwin or can get to Darwin for that one. That'd be brilliant.
Yeah, they've certainly got a good facility up there. So
yeah, you've shot up there, haven't you?
Well, I used to live there, so yeah, we.
Yep. You used to live on the range. Wow, that's
effectively
that's not bad.
There's not a lot else to do unless you're into fishing.
So
enough. No, we used to use it as certainly an underutilised facility at the time. So hopefully there's a bit more patronage of the facility now. So
yeah, it'd be good. Excellent. All right. Well, I reckon we've waffled on long enough, and we probably should finish this up and look forward to talking to you guys all again after we've expended all this energy at the Invitational, and look forward to reporting on it.
I think it'll be good.
Thanks for coming in, guys. Thanks for listening, and we'll talk to you guys next time.
All right. See you later.
Thanks for listening to the Precision Shooting Podcast. To continue the discussion, check out our Facebook page. And for more information, head to our website, www.precisionshootingpodcast.com.au. This episode was brought to you by Impact Dynamics, advanced training for the precision shooter.